Jerry Mace, the Kickin lawyer, and we are here for another law talk. I hope everyone has had a happy holiday season. As always, if you haven't, please like, follow, subscribe to the content. You can find us on all social media platforms, all podcast platforms, YouTube, TikTok, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We're on all the stuff. Definitely go check out the TikTok. It's really kind of blown up. It's because of all the dances. And then we've got Inside My Head is available now. It's by the local band, N.A. The Band. It is free on Spotify, Apple, iTunes, wherever you listen to music, so please check those guys out. Michelle Allen is a longtime sponsor of the show, so we want to give her a shout out, and make sure you check her out if you need help buying, selling, renting, leasing real estate. She'll be glad to help you. Also a good community leader, so she can give you guidance on that stuff too. Mason's High Octane Martial Arts. We have a location in Covington and a location in Millington now. If you're interested in starting your martial arts journey, just visit masonsmartialarts.com. We'd be glad to get you started. And then the new business we're working on right now is Jam Books and Records. It'll be located on the square in Covington. We'll have new and used books and records. Hopefully that'll be open the beginning of January. We shall see. And then Masonite Digital Marketing. Josh will help you with your branding, social media marketing, commercials, video, whatever you need. Just visit masonitemarketing.com. And I was pleasantly surprised to have this guest walk in today so that I could interview him. And that is a fellow attorney, Mr. Jeremy Armstrong. How are you, Jeremy?
Hello.
Good to see you. You know, I guess I should tell you publicly, I think I've told you before, but, you know, you did help me in law school. Jeremy is much smarter than me, and I go on record telling people that all the time. He's a very intelligent attorney, just smart guy in general. But we were in law school. He was a year ahead of me. And I remember I was struggling with civil procedures, and you gave me what were they called? Those
the outlines.
Yeah, you gave me the outlines, but you gave me a study book too.
Oh yeah,
and it actually helped. I forget what brand that was, but
the Barbary Study Guides.
It may have been the Barbary Studies. It was a separate book on civil procedure. Because I struggled with you know what I struggled with personally in law school? Civil procedures. I just couldn't grasp it, and criminal law. Because I'd been a cop, and the law was the state statutes, and it was the common law in criminal law, and it was confusing to me.
Well, I mean, that's one of the things about law school. You spend 3 years learning the law, and then you start practicing and realizing that just a very small amount of it's actually relevant to day-to-day practice.
Yeah, especially if you're a criminal defense lawyer.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so you are now a public defender.
Yes.
And do you enjoy that?
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. What do you like about it?
Well, one, I don't have to go out and hunt down my clients. They the judges tend to hand them to me.
Yeah, that helps.
But aside from that, it's great having people who appreciate, they can't necessarily afford their own attorney, so they appreciate having somebody in their corner. Of course, there's always the attitude with some people that if you're a public defender, you're not a real attorney. You're not practicing on your own. You're not a real lawyer because the state's just, you work for the state. But, something I learned even when I was in private practice, public defenders are the ones in that courtroom every day. So they know the judges. They know how the judges rule. It's generally a good idea to listen to the public defender because they kind of have their finger on the pulse of that courtroom.
Yeah, well, I tell people here all the time. I literally had a guy come in before I met with you, and he has a public defender. He's got 2 different jurisdictions. He's got charges, and one of them he has a public defender. And he was sort of saying the same type thing, is that he didn't feel like the guy was trying to work for him. And what I explained to him, the guy he has is a good lawyer. And I said that some of the best lawyers I know are public defenders. And so I think they get that bad perception just out of ignorance, to be honest, because you're right. Often they have the most experience. A lot of times they have more trial experience. I think the only negative, and you tell me your view on this now that you've worked as a public defender for some time and then in private practice. The only thing that sometimes I think may come up, and I don't know that this is accurate locally, but sometimes I think they do get too many cases. It's maybe hard to manage the caseload when there's too many. But what's been your experience on that? Do you feel like it's appropriate now, or?
The district I work in, it's not terrible. We have, I think enough public defenders to cover the cases. But we also have judges who are very particular about if you make a certain amount, if you make a bond of a certain amount, you don't get a public defender. Because if you can make, several $1,000s worth of bonds, then you need to go hire your own attorney. But we do have days in court where a private attorney may come in, have one or two clients they're dealing with, where I may have 10.
Mm-hmm.
So aside from just trying to balance meeting with all of my clients, talking to the DA, reviewing evidence, I mean, there comes a time crunch where eventually I have to say, I'm prioritizing this trial I have next week versus, continuing 3 or 4 cases that I may have been able to resolve this week, but I have to push them because I just didn't have time.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, that is a part that, and that's one thing I think that Brian and I don't know that we do well, but like Brian will not go do jail visits. Like he won't do it. So I do. I'll go do the jail visits. But Brian, he's kind of like you. He's real smart. And so his best use often is maybe researching or drafting something that I'm not good at, So I think sometimes that's a give and take. And let's talk about that briefly. So why don't you let everybody know, because you have a very interesting background, what your undergrad and what are your degrees in?
So I went to undergrad at Christian Brothers, got a degree in biology with a minor in chemistry. Then I went and spent 3 years at UT Health Science Center studying neuropharmacology, which is basically the study of drugs and how they work on the brain. And funny enough, I spent most of my time shooting rats up with cocaine.
Okay. I mean, that was fun.
It was, and one thing I kind of joke about is I went from a world where I was shooting rats up with cocaine to seeing how it works in the real world.
Yeah, seeing how it works with the clients and whatnot. Why cocaine specifically?
Well, one of the things we were kind of focused on was, a lot of the drugs of abuse work on the dopamine centers of the brain. They make you happy.
Yeah, yeah.
They trigger a euphoria. Meth, cocaine, they all trigger a euphoric feeling. What we wanted to try to do was find something that if somebody was addicted to cocaine, then if we did finally get them off of cocaine, we wanted something to keep them from relapsing. Well, unfortunately, some of the issues we had was you start playing with that system and you have issues like depression and stuff like that. When you take the happy chemicals away, you start getting a lot of sad.
Yeah. So what do you think about on the dopamine? What do you think about these?
So I was actually...
And for those that can't see what we're doing, I was talking about a cell phone. I was asking Jeremy his perception on the cell phone with dopamine.
It's definitely, you mentioned the TikTok earlier. How much dopamine do you get each time you swipe to a new video or you get a like on Facebook? You get little charges of dopamine. So, it can be just as addictive as a drug. You've got even people reporting, when they have their cell phone in their hands or they carry their cell phone in their pocket, they'll get phantom vibrations. They think they felt their cell phone vibrate and they check it. Because your body is geared so much to getting that positive response, just to being connected all the time, that it hunts for that connection.
Yeah, and I was listening to another podcast actually this morning, and they were talking about that, but then they were also talking about the next level, like how we as humans, we constantly invent. That's really kind of what we do. If you look at humans as a species, we develop technology. And then because we want that dopamine hit, we always got to desire the next thing, the next bigger, better. We're not ever content, so we always go to the next level. And so, again, I respect your opinion on especially stuff like this, but, I don't think we're far from where this is integrated, where this is part of us. Like, we're borderline an Android now, like everybody has to have the phone with them, And so how far do you think we are to where we're some kind of integration?
I think we're at least a couple decades away from implanted. Now, I do think in the next decade they'll have refined things like the Google Glass and stuff like that, where it becomes common to just constantly have a field of vision.
Kind of like an augmented reality look. Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah, well, there was one movie that had something like that where when you look at somebody, you would see their stats, their background, their social score, all these kind of things. And I am nervous that we are kind of working that direction on some of this stuff. There was something else I was going to say, though, about that you just brought up. And I can't recall what I was just thinking about.
Well, you've got shows now playing. You've got like the Orville, and I think Black Mirror may have done one that's played around with the idea of somebody's social value being connected to their social media, how much people like them.
Yeah. That's what it was. AI. Another thing I heard this morning was saying that this guy was saying that he thinks they have already done the what do you call it, the general intelligence or whatever, it's artificial intelligence, but it's like a general artificial intelligence, like it's standalone already.
Oh,
Like that somebody has already cracked that. That makes me nervous because I grew up watching Terminator and stuff.
are we ready to hit Judgment Day?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it goes one of two ways. I think once we finally crack the AI code, it's either going to be AI looks at us like an ant and is like, I don't care. It's not relevant to me. Or they look at us like a bacteria and they're like, we need to get rid of that. You know what I mean? I think it's going to be one of the two.
Well, I mean, science fiction writers have played with it for years, talking about once AI gets to the point and their goal is to protect humanity, do they protect humanity from themselves by destroying us?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It kind of scares me. I guess we'll see. I'm also afraid that because of these and things in video games and whatnot, it's so addictive. It's eventually going to be kind of like Ready Player One, where people are just completely immersed in it. Like you get think about it. If you got the suit where you could feel it, and you're in there and in it, I don't know. It's like next level.
Well, I play video games myself a couple hours a week. I play Diablo, things like that. I'm not getting in there. I don't go on the chat and all that. I've never been that type. I get in there to get away from other people.
Sure.
But I mean, there are people whose entire social structure is built around the people they meet in these arcade games, in these video games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's almost like you can build it's almost like a different avatar, because people don't see you; they just see your character and what you do in the game. I play Apex Legends a little bit, and it is an escape for me. I like it because it's monotonous, and I don't have to think about other things. So I do play it that way. Now I do occasionally play Fortnite if my kids are on it. They're all grown, but they still play it. And then I know Josh, you and Justin, our other brother, have been playing Call of Duty, right?
Yeah, we were just playing last night.
Yeah, they enjoy the getting to shoot people part, though, I think.
That's my favorite. Yeah, it's my favorite.
Talking about video games, though, Jeremy, I don't know if Josh knows this, but our dads were big on video games coming up because they worked in that industry. Your dad still does, right?
He does. He still contracts with bowling alleys, places like that, to provide arcade games to them. And I still occasionally help him out, just doing some repairs. And
well, Josh and them, I know Justin's wanting to. I don't know if Mama's okay with it. You really need to clear that with her. But they're going to clear out a bunch of stuff in that garage. And there's a bunch of old cabinets and boards and all kinds of stuff in there. If you can talk to your dad if he has any interest in it.
Yeah, the cabinets are the only thing I think has any value, because it's like some of the old Mortal Kombat cabinets with because the images and stuff that are on the side of them. Imagine most of the boards by now are probably not in working order. Would be
they could probably fix them, though. I don't know. They're old school. You never know. But so on the old school arcade games, since you grew up with them too, what's like your favorite all-time arcade game?
Oh, what is? I can't believe I can't remember the name. It's literally a side-to-side shooter. You just basically troll along, get better and better guns.
Galaga?
No, that's a vertical. This one is just a soldier running across the screen. Something similar to that.
Yeah.
But it was an arcade game.
Yeah.
Soldier running across
Full
the
Metal
screen.
something.
Full Metal Gear?
Yes.
Something like that?
Full Metal Gear, I think is what it was called.
Yeah, I remember that one. What about you, Josh?
What favorite specifically arcade game?
Yeah.
Or, probably either Pac-Man, Miss Pac-Man or Galaga, one of those.
Yeah, I was going to say Miss Pac-Man, mostly because I probably spent the most hours playing that. Our dad used, and I'm sure you have done this with your dad, Jeremy, but we would go to, sites where he had games set and he'd collect the money and we'd play. Well, a lot of times it was in bars. And I can remember being like 7 or 8 and going in bars where they had Pac-Man tournaments in the 80s and they would have the cocktail Pac-Mans.
Oh, yeah.
And I was really good at Miss Pac-Man. And so I'd go in there with these drunk dudes and beat them and win the tournaments at like 7 or 8 playing Miss Pac-Man. But yeah, I played that. And then I played, you remember Joust?
Oh, yeah.
That was a good one. That one I remember enjoying a lot. And Spy Hunter. There was a bunch of 1980s arcade games that I have good memories of. It was a big deal. I remember this. You tell me if you experienced this. So I would have friends come over, and this was pre-Nintendo. So, and I'm a little older than you, so you may not have experienced this. Anyway, they would come over, and it was just this huge thing to them that we had these video games there. And it was old news to me. You know, I wanted to play with my friends. And then even maybe it goes back to the dopamine thing, but I couldn't get them to not play the games. You know, they would want to just play the games the whole time. That's all they would want to do. And I wanted to do other stuff with my friends, and it became kind of a distraction. And then for us, Nintendo hit, and that kind of killed the business for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
So, but did y'all have games there, I guess, growing up at the house or around?
We had the tabletop Pac-Man, and that's really, we had a dartboard.
Yeah.
But Dad didn't bring a lot of them home. Mm-hmm. I think he kind of got tired of dealing with them at work, so he didn't really bring them home.
Hey, if he runs across a tabletop Pac-Man or even a stand-up, I would kind of like to have one. I don't want one of these new Ready Player Up ones they have. I want an
arcade one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's funny.
Old school one.
What's funny is you go to some of the arcades now, and they've got these, massive emulators that take up an entire wall where you play old Nintendo games.
Yeah. It's crazy, isn't it? People want to do Tetris on that or whatever.
Right. You're playing a 30, probably 40-year-old now game.
Yeah.
And you're paying $1 to do it.
Yeah. Well, part of why Daddy got out of it at that one point is because once Nintendo hit, people quit going to the arcade. And then it developed to where the only game they would go pay to play were the ones that were kind of a simulator, like you were on a motorcycle thing or a shooter with a gun, something you couldn't really simulate at home. But those were so expensive, it just got sort of cost prohibitive for him to keep doing that. But I remember that being a big deal because we went from having a lot of money to having no money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you get the nice riding games, and those would be thousands of dollars, or, sometimes you would lease them. Mm-hmm. And, if they're only bringing in $100, a couple $100 a month, or even a week, you're taking, when you add repairs, you're operating at a loss on them.
Yeah, yeah. I guess your dad probably did. Did he do crane machines and
still
got tables,
a ton
all
of
that
cranes.
stuff? Yeah.
I remember going up there and helping him at the shop, and we'd bring pool tables in that had been at places like Hazel's, and he'd hand me some Windex and a paper towel and say, "Go, wipe that down."
Yeah, go clean that thing up.
I thought the trim on the sides was brass and it was silver.
Oh yeah, it was from all the smoke residue. Yeah, I remember going with my dad to this like industrial area of Memphis, and it seemed like it was so far away as a kid. I remember. Anyway, that's where he would pick up the toys that would go in the crane machine. It was an Acme toy company, is where it was. Anyway, we'd go in there. And I remember it because I don't know if it was an owner or receptionist who it was, but some nice lady would always bring me some toy out because I was the kid, so I'd get some special toy from going and picking up all them crane machine toys that were in there. Mm-hmm. I remember one that I got was like a knockoff Transformer. It was like a gold and bronze Dinobot, but it was not a Dinobot. So. Anyway,
it would work about 3 times.
Yeah, I probably still had it stuck somewhere. I want to see that's probably worth something now as a knockoff. So speaking of dinosaurs, I saw Godzilla -1 last night. Have you
How
seen
was that?
Well, first let me get Josh's perspective because Josh is the reason I went. So Josh, explain to me why Godzilla -1, why you have such an opinion on it.
Because it's basically like a remake of the original Godzilla, where Godzilla is not treated like a joke or like a big cartoon character or Barney, but it's treated like a force of nature, like a hurricane or an earthquake or a natural disaster. He's this like terrifying force. And I like the fact that they took it back to its roots and set it post World War II Japan, so right after the nukes had been dropped. So you already had Japan in this situation where they were at ground zero essentially. Because they had dealt with this horrible, traumatic war that they had just been through and all the things that had happened. And then on top of that, they then have to also deal with this giant monster attacking and destroying the city. And it had the best characters of any Godzilla movie. I thought the characters were really well done. I actually cared about them, and I was actually concerned about them, getting killed. So, anyway, I thought it was phenomenal. I thought it was the best movie of the year, and I thought it was hands down the best Godzilla movie by far. I don't think any of the other Godzillas even come close to it.
So it's better than the early 2000 one that the Taco Bell dog advertised?
Yeah. It's slightly better than that one. Yeah.
So we watched it. Madeline fell asleep immediately. It's subtitled, which I was prepared for. I knew it was a Japanese movie that was subtitled. I agree that it had the best character development of any Godzilla movie. It was a good. The actors were really good. It's dubbed, but you do still. I agree that you care for them. It's the best acting of any of the movies. You know, Matthew, what is it, Roderick, whatever that played in the one is good, but this was way better. I didn't really like Godzilla though. I didn't like he moves like the old Godzilla toy moved. Like it's like a step. Then a step.
It was an intentional move by the director to make the CGI Godzilla move like the guy in the suit did in the original.
Yes. So that was I don't know. I did. It was more of a romance, really, to be honest. Like you said, it was a horror movie, and I didn't really feel that at all.
It just meant the scenes where Godzilla was on screen.
I felt that it was it felt like a romance to me. It was really more about post-war PTSD and unrequited love or whatever. I mean, it was good, but I think I initially thought it was going to suck super bad, and then him and other people were like, "It's the greatest movie ever." So then I had this high standard, and it's probably in the middle there somewhere.
But you also got to remember one thing: you have to approach it from the angle of it was made for like $5, as opposed to and was that good versus these superhero.
I don't mean to undersell it. It's decent, but
that cost $300 million and are trash.
I don't think it was the best of the year, though, in my opinion.
So we're gonna retitle it "Love in the Time of Kaiju," or
yeah, maybe. I can't wait on them to say kaiju, but I never picked up on that in there. They just said kaiju.
They didn't know what they were. That was it was the first time they encountered something like that. So.
Anyway, it's worth seeing. You might like it. I don't know.
I'll have to check it out.
Are you a monster movie guy at all?
I like monster movies. All right. I tend to, Christmas movies like Die Hard and Rambo
and Batman.
Yeah. Well,
1989 Batman. It's got a Christmas tree in it.
I think it's Batman Returns you're thinking.
Oh, is it? I thought they were trying to say Batman was. I agree. Die Hard is a Christmas movie. Best Christmas movie ever.
Oh, the Santa Claus.
The Santa Claus. It shows your age though, I think, because you're younger.
Oh, it's definitely a millennial age movie.
Yeah. I like. I don't know. The one that I used to watch every time was like the 1934 Christmas Carol. And it's because, for some reason around Christmas Eve, I would be putting toys together late at night. And I won't disclose why, because I had little kids. Anyway, so while I was doing that, I was always have that playing. And so I have good memories with that. I also like National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. It's really good.
Yeah. Now, if you're looking at less traditional Christmas movies, Scrooged is one of my favorites.
Yeah, it's all right. I like Elf. I guess it's sort of a modern traditional one.
I kind of give and take with Will Ferrell.
What'd you think about Brian and the play?
Oh, the play was great.
Yeah.
I know that certain people had a hard time because they had just gotten off a long trip.
Yeah.
But it was
yeah, we did have a hard time staying awake. It was a good play. I did fall asleep, but it wasn't because the play wasn't good.
I mean, I'm really impressed with what that community theater puts on.
Every time I have been to the Collierville, the Herald, right? Is that
Herald.
what it is? Every time I've been to the Herald Theater, all the productions are top notch. They're very good. And they always have really good dance sections in it.
Yeah.
I guess there's a local dance group or something that's, I don't know, they're all really good. They always have really impressive dance stuff. And then, I thought the best scene of that play was the Santa Claus part where they're doing the singing and dancing on the chairs. That was impressive.
Yeah. And Mark Vaughn did an excellent job as Santa.
That's right. That is who he played. I recognized him, but didn't realize it was him until you just said that. I thought the boy that played Elf did a good job.
He did a great job.
He was very likable and believable. Anyway, and then they had the Denstall girl was the love interest, and she did really good. I hate to say that I had prejudged that because she's a Denstall and the Chocolate Place sponsors it. I was like, oh, I see. But then she was actually really good.
She is very good.
Yeah, so it was nice. Are you doing any plays upcoming?
Nothing planned in the immediate future. I've actually had a couple of coworkers ask me if I was doing Rocky Horror again.
Yes, I have been asked that also. What do you think? What are you thinking?
I think if we can get enough of the original crew together, I think we can make another run of it. But
yeah, well, it's one of those things where if you ask me the week after, I say no. But then the more time passes, the more I'm like, okay, I could do it. Madeline has said in the beginning she said no, and now she's saying, well, ask me later maybe. So I think she probably would. And I know Brian loves playing Frankenfurter.
Yeah.
So it's very likely that there's several of us that you could get back to do it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this time I kind of got called in as a pinch hitter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, and that was more, we can talk about later why, but there was one person in particular that was wanting to do it as sort of a last hurrah. And then, there was a shuffle up, so it's all good. But I love you as Dr. What's his name?
Dr. Scott.
Dr. Scott.
It's
Dr.
a lot of
Scott.
fun. It's absolutely a ton of fun to do it.
It is a lot of fun. It's a lot more work than people think. I think it's less work for us now because we're so used to it. We're probably harder to direct now, though.
Oh, yeah.
Because we're so set in the characters. Mm-hmm. Yeah. For those that don't know, we're talking about Rocky Horror that the Ruffin has done now for, I think, 5 years in a row. And, of course, I've played Rocky. My law partner, Brian, has played Frankenfurter. Jeremy's played Dr. Scott. Receptionist Molly has played Magenta. Magenta. She played Magenta and the Usher or whatever. And anyway, we have a lot of fun doing that every year. We thought about doing a character swap up. Jeremy could be Rocky next year.
Yeah. There's things people don't want to see in this world.
I don't know. They kind of get to see it anyway. That's a point in the play. It's a lot of fun. So I want to talk to you about one more thing just because I'm curious on your opinion, and then I'll let you go. I was talking about aliens. I was told him at the beginning, Jeremy's like, what are we going to talk about? I said, aliens. So they've got the new, it's basically been admitted by the government now that they have, non-terrestrial vehicles, or at least non-human origin vehicles, and potentially biologics. So what do you think about all that? Like, do you think they're like legit aliens, or you think maybe they're from somewhere that we can't perceive on the planet, or is it all smoke and mirrors and bread and circuses to make us not pay attention to the fact we've got a zombie in the office, or what is it?
I think that something like this pops up, it seems like every time Congress or the executive branch or something like that, somebody is doing something they want to divert attention from.
Yeah.
It's, we're going to release the real identity of who killed Kennedy. We're going to release the alien files, and people are like, oh, they released, oh, wait. We still don't have any real proof. We just have paperwork.
Yeah. Well, but I feel like, I guess I want it to be true, but I just can't imagine in the vastness of the universe that there isn't other intelligent life,
I think in the vastness, there has to be.
Yeah, but you got to think if that there's other intelligent life, it could be millions of years ahead of us. And so I would think that it's possible they could warp space-time. I mean, there's things that we think are not an option, which would mean they could get here. Because I assume what you're about to say is, yeah, maybe, but the thing is, like, how are they going to get here,
Well, I mean, you're looking at if there is intelligent life somewhere else. There's 3 levels they're going to be on. They're either going to be inferior, technologically to us, in which case they're not going to find us. Mm-hmm. They're either going to be on par with us, which means they're going to have to be somewhere close by for us to pick up a signal or ever find them.
That's true.
Or they're going to have to be vastly technologically superior, in which case they'd probably be following something similar to the Star Trek, directive of,
don't bother them.
Look at them, but don't bother them.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think that could be part of it. I have a theory that they're us. I think they may be significantly evolved humans, and that they're coming back in time, so to speak, or somehow through warp or something, maybe another dimension, and just looking at us like in a zoo.
Looking around the curve.
Yeah. Just like think about it. We would love to see dinosaurs. We'd love to go back and see that. Now, of course, I'm doing it based on my perception right now of what we would want to see. I don't know in millions of years if we're still here, if that's the case. But maybe that's it. Maybe they just want to come back and take a look.
I don't know. I'm not sure. If those are future humans, I'm not sure the path we're on right now they're actually going to exist. But
yeah, no, I don't disagree with you. I think it's one of those things where. There's someone else, a sociologist, was talking about this, about the levels of a species. And, like, we're at the level where in the next, 100 years or so, we'll either completely destroy ourselves or maybe go to the next level where people quit fighting over dirt and stuff, and we realize that we're all the same species and we need to work together. So, I don't know. One of the two will happen probably in the next couple hundred years, I would think.
Well, I had somebody argue with me the other day, and they said, kids in school aren't learning all the things we had to learn when we were younger. I'm like, dude, kids in school are learning by 7th grade at this point more than scientists knew about DNA in 1955.
Yeah. I mean, literally, they have access to more knowledge right here than we had in school. Literally, this right here. Now, you might look up knowledge, that they maybe don't need to look up right now. But my point is, they have access to more information on this thing than we would go to a library, and that's got more information than the library has. It's crazy how much information there is. I think ultimately it's a good thing. I think more information is better, but it is somewhat overwhelming, because I'm going to finish this book, and then all of a sudden I've been on my phone for an hour looking at, TikTok videos of a dude, falling in a hole or something.
Well, I mean, you look at how fast what is commonly known changes. When I was in law school, I took a gun rights seminar, and I had to write a paper. And when I started the paper, the first draft at the beginning of the semester, I basically wrote about how if the federal government is going to not apply marijuana laws to states that have legalized marijuana, then they need to kind of loosen up on the gun laws regarding, gun possession if you use marijuana. Well, between the time that I wrote the first draft and the time that I finished the paper, I had to go back and rewrite a whole section of it because it had gone from like 6 states to like 36 states had legalized marijuana on some level.
Yeah.
I mean, pretty much by the time you read a paper on a topic now, somebody else has a paper refuting it.
Yeah.
So things are changing so fast. And I think the most important thing we can teach kids now is kind of something we learn in law school, is how to take information and parse that information. Rather than just, I read an article, it says this, so this is how it is. Well, let me read another article and try to either combine them, figure out what the truth is between the two.
Yeah. Speaking of that, so let me run this argument by you, okay? And I already kind of know as a lawyer probably what you're going to say, but I thought it was a unique argument. I had a guy tell me, he said, if you're convicted of a felony, right, felons can't vote anymore. And his point was, if I can't vote, then how are they taxing me? Because now I'm being taxed without representation, and that was unconstitutional. I mean, what do you think about that?
I mean, it's a sort of an old argument.
Yeah.
But, there's a lot of rights that you lose when you commit a felony or when you're found guilty of a felony. You lose the right to own a gun. You lose, multiple rights. That doesn't mean you're not still driving on the roads. You're not still using the benefits of the freedom. You're just you lose some of those rights that they've entrusted to you.
Yeah. Well, what I find interesting about it was, if you understand what you just said, which is true, you lose, if you're a felon, you lose gun rights, and you can't run for election. Like a lot of people don't realize that. You can't run for office, things like that. And I think that people have a piece of the puzzle and haven't really parsed it out, kind of like you're talking about. And so then those arguments have merit. That's kind of how things like sovereign citizen arguments, I think, develop, is they have a piece of a puzzle that sounds really good. And they're like, look, I'm showing you right here. It's an admiralty flag because it's got fringe on it, so it doesn't have authority, it doesn't have jurisdiction over me. And they haven't gone any deeper into it. I was in a circuit the other day, and this guy was suing the county, suing the sheriff's office and some civil rights stuff. And what he was arguing is that the discovery he received wasn't certified. It wasn't all certified. And most of it didn't have to be certified. It just is what it is. They were giving it to him from the custodian. The judge was trying to explain to him why it didn't need to be certified. And it was that he had a piece of a puzzle that he thought, legal puzzle, but he didn't see the whole picture. And I think that's why, it is important to have lawyers that delve into it, and it can help explain it a little better maybe to people so they don't miss that they're just looking at this one piece of the puzzle.
Sounds like something a member of the British Accredited Registry would say.
Yeah, exactly. He's definitely one of those guys. He was representing himself. He's pro se. And he was going on and on about it. And then he had like what was it he was wanting? He was wanting to do the depositions of the sheriff and the chiefs and he wanted to do it on different days because he couldn't do it on one day because he says he's got these medical issues. And when the other lawyer, he brought up something new for the judge to think about. And anyway, long story short, what happened was the guy needed to go get some medical equipment from his car to continue. And finally, that lawyer was like, you know what? Never mind, Your Honor, withdrawn. Like, he didn't want to wait on him to do that because it was going to take so long for him to keep arguing with the court. And he was really hurting himself. But anyway, yeah, small piece of the puzzle, not seeing the whole picture.
Surprised he didn't ask for copies of their oaths and bonds.
He may have. I come in on the end and only heard the last part of it, so I don't know what all he had asked for, but it's very interesting. Well, anyway, we're filming this before Christmas. I think you guys are probably going to see it after Christmas. I don't know. But I hope you have a Merry Christmas. Have you taken care of all the shopping at this point?
I did. I had my panic moment last night of who have I forgotten, and then I rectified that today, and I believe everybody's caught up at this point.
Good.
What about you?
I think so. It was confusing because several of my family, their Christmas present was this cruise we're going to go on. And then the ones that aren't going, I was like, I guess I got to get them something. So literally yesterday I had to go and finish up some last minute stuff.
So since this is airing after Christmas, what'd you get for Libby?
Well, Libby's going to get to live in a house, so she's going to be good. And then my pig, of course, this was from cutting the hooves. I was holding her legs, and I had the trimmers in her hoof, and she kicked real hard, and it said zipper, and just literally to the bone, cut me from here to here. It was squirting blood. It was really bad. It was great. Anyway,
you didn't lose it, so
no, I didn't. But give my fair wishes to Sarah, please.
I will.
I like her a lot more than you, and I won't.
Most people do.
Yeah, I'm just messing with you. She's a very kind person. Madeline always enjoys talking with her. So
good.
And thanks for stepping in to do this for me too, Jeremy.
No problem.
Yeah, and I appreciate you guys watching too. I hope you have a good rest of the week. As always, don't forget to like, follow, subscribe to the content. As I said before, we're on all social media platforms. Give us a like, a follow, leave comments. Tell me you don't like my hair or whatever. I don't care. It's great. And just mention we're on TikTok where you can get those dopamine hits. And if you want more dopamine, just download Inside My Head from NA The Band. Local guys, free album. Please support them. I want to remind you to support Michelle Allen. She's a longtime sponsor of the show. If you're buying, selling, renting, leasing real estate, she'd be glad to help you out. Just check her out with Cry Like Realtors. And then Mason's High Octane Martial Arts has been in Covington for a bunch of years, 30 years. And then we just opened a place in Millington. So you can check us out, masonsmartialarts.com. We'd be glad to get you to Kickin. Jam Books and Records should be open soon. And it's going to be on the Covington Square. We will buy and sell books and records, new and used. So you can come check us out. That's going to be a lot of fun. And then last but not least, Josh will make you Godzilla movies and stuff. With dubbing, just visit masonitemarketing.com and he'll be glad to help you out. So have a good rest of your week. Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, wherever we are when this posts, and keep kicking. Thanks for watching, guys. Just remember that this is not legal advice or investment advice or business advice. This is for fun and entertainment purposes only.